you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very fortunate to be part of this international gathering with some amazing group of people. I would like to begin with my land acknowledgement. I am connecting with you today from Winnipeg, Manitoba. It is on Treaty 1 territory, which is the ancestral land of Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji Cree, Dakota, Dene people, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. And I also would like to acknowledge that the water we use in Winnipeg comes from Shoal Lake First Nation. Our presentations today is going to be versatile and quite interesting. We have one student, undergraduate student of environmental engineering from all the way from Brazil, who has worked with us in the summer of 2018 in this health sovereignty and Indigenous sovereignty project. And I would like to introduce you Débora Boratto. She would talk to us about the Muskrat Hut Sustainable Project. And after that, we will be talking about the Health Sovereignty Project based on OPCN and OCN. So, Débora, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm really glad to be here. I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, so hello, everyone. My name is Débora. I'm an environmental engineering student from Brazil, from Federal University of Minas Gerais. And today I'm gonna talk a little bit about my experience working on the Muskrat Hut Sustainable Hub project that I was really happy to participate on 2019 during my internship on Canada. And it's about Indigenous housing and sanitation. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about the gaps and how to enhance the solutions towards communities' well-being. And the project is led by Dr. Alex Wilson, and I worked together with her and with Asfia. So as an introduction, I bring here two phrases so we can think a little bit about them. The first one is that housing is not a building problem, but it's a systems problem. And the violations of the right to water and sanitation determine the violations of several other related rights. So we know that adequate housing and safe and clean water and sanitation, they are considered by United Nations as human rights. So they should be addressed to everyone without discrimination. But what we see in practice, this is not what we see in practice, right? So the vulnerable groups in terms of race, age, religion, and everything, they are the most affected one by the inequities of housing and sanitation and its implications that goes beyond the health issues, but also it has social and cultural destructive impacts. So we are talking here about not just building houses and building toilets, but trying to do in a really different way. So trying to hack the whole system, not just by building houses. So here are some of the gaps that I found out while participating on this project. The first one is that housing and sanitation, it should be looked not just as an outcome, which means it shouldn't be looked as an engineering solution, but it should be looked as a whole process and its outcomes. So by doing that, house and sanitation becomes a powerful cultural tool and a powerful way to enhance people's reconnection to the land and to the land-based knowledge. And but what we see nowadays is the mainstream initiatives and the whole process conducted by a colonial framework view, which it doesn't mean that that the process is not considered. The only aim is to have a engineering solution. So it only look at as an outcome, not as a process. And the second thing is the second gap that I realized is about the interconnection between health, nature, and traditional knowledge. So we know that this interconnection is part of Indigenous planning and Indigenous practice since immemorial times. But when you talk about housing and sanitation practice that we find out nowadays, it's not what happens. So there's a really break on these three dimensions. They are not taken into account together. And we often see a lot of constructions and a lot of buildings saying that they are sustainable, maybe because they use sustainable materials or something like that. But as we know, the heart of sustainability, as this phrase is saying, the heart of sustainability is really to try to maintain the community's worldview during the whole process. So it's really trying to get the community to lead the whole process and the whole and to get the results that it wants, not only something that other person wants. So yeah. The third gap that is really important, specifically on the Muskrat Hut, is that house and sanitation, it should be addressed beyond the household. So we often think about house and sanitation inside our houses, our homes. So we need to have a toilet and tap water, for example, inside the house. But it's not just that. So housing and sanitation, they should be addressed also in public spaces, for example, and in community spaces. This is because, for example, the most affected people by the inequities of housing and sanitation includes homeless people, for example, that are the most affected groups. And they are considered invisible in terms of monitoring purpose. So if we don't have house and sanitation safe and equal conditions in public spaces, this is it's become a challenge for community events and for land-based activities on public spaces. So it often means that people just don't go to these events. So here is some photos of the Muskrat Hut that I'm gonna talk a little bit from now. Here are some of the people who are involved, and on the right some photos of the inside of the units that I'm gonna talk a little bit more. Here on the third photo is me helping with the stairs.
Sorry, Débora. Just to sorry about that, but I think these slides aren't being displayed. Just wanted to make you aware of that.
It's passing to the other slide.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry
about that. So yeah, I was just talking about the introduction and the gaps. I hope you were able to understand what I was talking. But I was on this photo here, that is the Muskrat Hut. So we have, here are some people that worked with us, and on the right, the photos of the inside of the muskrat. So here is what is the Muskrat Hut Sustainable Project. It's a collaborative action research to support sustainable community design.
Hello?
Hello? Hello? Hello? Is everything okay?
We can hear you, Débora.
Okay. So it's a collaborative action research to support sustainable community design and address water, wastewater, and housing issues in First Nations. And the whole project is built on the work of One House, Many Nations, that is part of Idols No More movement. That is a really, really interesting and important movement in that brings awareness to houseless and to homeless in Canadian and Indigenous people in Canada. And it takes place on Opaskwayak Cree Nation, that is on Treaty 5 territory on northern Manitoba. But the aim of the project was to build a unity that was also replicable, and it could be used in other communities. And again, why the project needs to happen, and what's behind the muskrat? It's again the inadequate access to safe water and the lack of accessibility, safety, and equality. That is a challenge for community events and for cultural gatherings and everything. And the whole point is to get a process and an outcome that goes against colonial housing models. So this is the unit. It's a really cute unit. It has an incinerator toilet, so that has zero waste. It has a shower changing room. It is a wood stove heated. It has a solar energy source, a water catchment storage system, and an outdoor kitchen area. That is the main photo here. And it's interesting to say that the muskrats, like the name, the muskrats, they are really important on the creation stories. If Alex were here, maybe she would be able to talk a little bit about that. But it's a symbol of sustainable uses of the resources. So it has a lot of symbology behind the muskrat as well. And here is a little bit about the how. So how the project was conducted. So we go from an issue that is the Indigenous housing crisis and everything that we discussed before. So that housing is not is a systems problem, not a building problem, and that the solutions need contextual adaptation. And from that issue, we go to the design. That was a really, really important part of the project. So it's the moment where we understand the concept. So we go through a lot of design workshops where the community led the actions. And it was really, really important to have the elders' advices as well. And in that point, we try to mix innovation with traditional knowledge, which is really important. And they are not like different things. They can be mixed together also in housing and sanitation contexts. And after that, we go to the build. So we go to building weeks where we have people from different backgrounds, engineering and people from community and architects and everything. And the aim was to have something that was accessible and replicable so that other communities could make the same. And we try always to use local resources. And again, the elders' advices were really, really important. And after that is actually the use. That was the aim of the unit, to help sustainable Indigenous economy, and it could be used as a unit for cultural and land-based activities, for land defense actions, and for community events. And by doing that, the whole point is try to go against or to hacking colonial systems. And here is a phrase from Dr. Alex Wilson about the project. She said, we are excited to think about how traditional Indigenous knowledge could be integrated or interpreted into a modern context for housing systems as well. So we have the solutions in our communities, we have the knowledge, we have the skill, we have the expertise. So that's really the point of the whole project, getting the community to lead the whole project. And here just some reflections about this theme, that is housing and sanitation. So from who and to whom? So who is on charge, or who is addressing housing and sanitation planning and projects, and to whom this is addressed, right? Who gets the benefits of housing and sanitation, and who is not addressed, who doesn't have the services, right? So what we see is that we have such different contexts. So for example, in Brazil, in different communities in Canada and everything, but we have similar issues. So I bring here some photos. This is on Gabriel Pimenta camp in Brazil. It's a camp from Landless Workers Movement, MSD. That is a really, really important and strong movement here in Brazil that has a lot of thousands of Brazilians who doesn't have land or doesn't have houses. So they try to occupy a land and build their own houses and everything, but they suffer a lot of pressure from government, and they're really strong to keep on that fight. But as you see, they are really in poor conditions. And here another photo of Vilanculo in Mozambique that I was also able to visit in 2017. And here it makes me think again of who are the most affected people by the lack of sanitation, for example. And here we see a woman and children going to get water that are actually the two of the most affected groups by the lack of housing and sanitation. So yeah, that's it. It's a little bit of my experience that I thought of sharing with all. So thank you, obrigada. And here are my contacts. If you have anything to talk or any questions, I'm available. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Débora. We would like to keep some time for question and answer at the very end of our presentation today. So I will be introducing the Land Should Lead Us project a little bit, and then I would like to give as much time as possible for Omar Constant and Crystal Constant, who joined us from all the way from Treaty 5 Trade Territory, Opaskwayak Cree Nation. And thank you so much for joining us. So without further delay, I'm going to share my screen. Hope it will go without any difficulty.
Hi, can you hear us, Brad? Can you hear us? Hello.
Yes. Let me introduce the project a little bit, Omar, and then okay. Can you all see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So welcome, everyone. This is our project, The Land Should Lead Us, acknowledging the community viability to practice Indigenous health sovereignty in Northern Manitoba. I have already acknowledged the land and the Treaty 1 territory. We have people from Treaty 5 territory as well, and respecting and acknowledging everyone. I would like to start give you a brief of our project. So the project is a collaboration between Aboriginal Education Resource Center with University of Manitoba and Northern Manitoba Food, Culture and Community Collaborative, which is a Manitoba-based philanthropy organization, has been collaborating with more than, I think, 35 different First Nation Métis communities around remote Northern Manitoba, Southern Manitoba as well, in projects that are community empowered and community designed, related to food, related to culture, and related to health and well-being.
Sorry to interrupt here. We can't see your slides. Can you try sharing again?
Oh, sure. Sorry about that. Let's try. So I go to the application window and then I share, right? Is that how you do it?
You can pick screen 1.
Okay. I'm trying.
Or it might just be screen.
When I'm sharing screen, it's showing me just the feed loop portal.
Yeah, that's okay. And then you'll go over to your PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. Can you see now?
Yeah, if you put it up full screen now.
Yeah, I can. Can you see now?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, technology is not, and I don't go well, I guess. So thank you all for your patience. We just started to talk about the collaboration and acknowledgement. These are the organization, and for community-wise, we have collaborated for this project with the Pasquak Cree Nation and Opiponapian Cree Nation. Both of the communities are very close to my heart, beautiful communities. It is a collaborative project, so it's really important that we introduce the people who have been the battery, the spirit, and the motivation behind this project. And the very first person I would like to acknowledge is Dr. Alex Wilson, my mentor and Débora's mentor, an amazing supervisor who has been behind this project and designing and all her knowledge and reconnecting and connecting with the elders. Everything that we have done for this project was because of her support. I would also like to thank Julie Price and Amanda Forsay for their amazing support towards this project as collaborator and partners, being patient with this project and helping us out throughout. We have this amazing group of elders. On the left, you get to see people from South Indian Lake. From the left here, we have Elder Ross Moose, and then Elder William Dysart, Elder Hilda Dysart, Food Champion Barb Spence, Elder Florence Donkey, and then here from Opaskwaik Cree Nation, Elder Mabel Bignell, and these are some students from U of M. Here on the left, you get to see Elder Cecilia Ross with my Elder Mabel Bignell and Flora Young. I also would like to acknowledge from the left, Elder Stan Wilson and Elder Peggy Wilson. And here, Débora with her beautiful fish that she got to eat in her trip to Opiponapian Cree Nation. And on the very left, I would like to acknowledge my very dear chief, Shirley Ducharme from Opiponapian Cree Nation. And the little baby you see is my baby. He was definitely part of the research and traveled with me all around as I was going to North. So again, about this project, what we try to do, I would try to be as brief as possible. We try to frame the concept of Indigenous food sovereignty from the knowledge that we gathered from the community elders and community-based well-being programs that are ongoing in these two communities. For that, we try to figure out the objectives as what are the Indigenous understanding of health, what are the relationship between health and well-being outcomes for individual in OPCN and OCN, and how effective these programs are for the existing community interventions in the field. Map-wise, if you look at it, OPCN and Opaskwaik Cree Nation are here. This is a map of Manitoba. From Thompson, Opiponapian Cree Nation is about like 3 hours north, and Opaskwaik Cree Nation is I think 4 to 4.5 hours from Thompson. These two red dots are the community locations geographically. Opiponapian Cree Nation, they are known as a very vibrant community ever since its inception. The community has a history of hunting, fishing, and thriving, and a lot of land-based activities. I think the existence of the community dates back to from as far as 6,000 years ago. One other thing for the community is they used to have this very strong legacy of longevity. People used to live long in there, and these beautiful photos that you see here in the very middle is Elder Annie Moose, who lived 113 years. On the very left here is Annie Moose's daughter, Annie Spence. She passed away at the age of 102. These are people who have been very active, very healthy, living on land-based food and medicines, and being an example for the community youth. And there were many people like them until the early 60s in the community. So a brief history of OPCN would be, if we look at, they used to have this healthy sovereign community with local livelihood system of hunting, fishing, and trapping. After the colonialism, it was a residential school that came around 1974-75. There was this development of hydro dam on the Churchill River system, which flooded the community, destroyed its very successful fishery, and of course, in addition to that, the creation of reserve. All of these impacts disrupted their healthy economy, their physical health, mental health, which the impact of colonialism, if you look at it, was on people's health and the increased unemployment, lack of healthy diet. There was inadequate housing, lack of clean drinking water, and no running water in the housing. And of course, the health system they have right now is not enough. So, and these problems are continuing, which disrupted their cultural practices. That said, the practices are on, and the reason we wanted to be part of and collaborate with the community, because they have this beautiful land-based activity intergenerational program called Itintomitsuin program, or the Food for the Land program, which teaches the youth on land-based traditional activities and creates employment and produce educational resources for kids to archive knowledges. So these are some of the vibrant pictures of the community land-based activities. Some of them are from 2015, some of them are from the beginning, like of this year. So, and for Opaskwaik Cree Nation, as well, it is a beautiful community with very healthy, sustainable local economy history. But more than that, the way I have learned from the elders about Opaskwaik Cree Nation is so beautiful. It's a community that is very sacred, and it's been known for a gathering place where people traveled for spiritual healing. It's an area where people used to come and gather for hunting, fishing, harvesting in the summertime as well. So basically, as you see, and the tradition is still being kept by elders. Elder Cecilia Ross in the picture is continuing this tradition of teaching the youth generation on harvesting medicine. Here as well, in the spring season, people are doing harvesting activities. A very brief history of Opaskwaik Cree Nation is again similar to Okipunapin Cree Nation, is they have a healthy sovereign community with land-based livelihood system, hunting, fishing, trapping, gardening. But it was disrupted by the creation of reserve in 1976, and followed by the creation of reserve. Of course, there was the impact of residential school, the creation of hydro dam in the Saskatchewan River. It was impacting both the Mississippi Cree Nation and Opaskwaik Cree Nation as well. The collapse of the fishing and trapping economy because of this damming. But on top of that, most recently, during our research, the elders were objecting on the fact that the way Ducks Unlimited Canada has been practicing conservation in the community land and the water system is actually disturbing the entire ecosystem. They're probably saving the ducks, but at the same time disrupting the wildlife other than ducks, for example, beavers, marten, muskrats. So the lack of support towards the adequate housing is another thing that started at the advent of colonialism. And this resulted the increased chronic health disparities, unemployment, lack of healthy diet, inadequate housing, disturbance in the cultural practices. These are all history that were collected from our conversation with the elders. And that said, they still have lots of amazing community intervention, well-being interventions happening in the community. And on the left, you see Omer and Crystal Constant proudly standing by their hunts. And here on the left, you see Elder Peggy Wilson with Julie Price extracting some honey in OCN Culture and Healthy Living Initiative program. So with this project, even though we started with OPC and OCN, and of course with University of Saskatchewan and the collaborative, through the work, we collaborated with Waniskatan Alliance for Hydro-Affected Communities, University of Manitoba-based research. They helped us out for community-based publications, and because OPCN and OCN, they're both impacted by the hydro dam, they wanted to kind of collaborate with us. In Intermitswin program, I just spoke to you about an OPCN-based local food sovereignty program. We collaborated. We also visited the Muskrat Hut Sustainable Hub project. Thank you, Débora and Alex, for giving us the insights on the sustainable housing project. And then, of course, the OCN Culture and Healthy Living Initiative is another project that's led by Elder Peggy Wilson, and they mentored us deeply for this project as well. So for a theoretical framework of this project, I quickly wanted to say that we took some ideas from different literatures and understandings, and the basic thing for us was we know that the health disparity is an issue in Indigenous communities, whether it's physical, clinical, or socio-political. But none of the literatures that we see out there, they are talking about Indigenous health and well-being in terms of health sovereignty framework. As of now, health sovereignty as a concept did not evolve explicitly in the scholarly literatures. So the discourse of health sovereignty, we actually kind of taken from the concept of Indigenous food sovereignty. Both food security and health security understandings are based on one-dimensional definition, focusing on the access and availability of food and health. So the health sovereignty and food sovereignty concepts helps us to go beyond that and talk about the Indigenous self-determination and help us talk about the discriminatory state policies. And so this, when we spoke about this, we realized that there is another understanding of community viability, and this is a concept that talks about a capability that inspires inspires a locally appropriate interactions within a community and improves the environment and health. So when it comes to community viability, community governance is something that plays an important role in understanding and enacting and achieving the health sovereignty. So for Indigenous people, if you look at the framework on the right, for Indigenous people, the sovereignty incorporates the keeping the health of the ecocultural territory. So when we talk about the health and well-being of a community, we have to think about the land and the water and all being that are connected to the land and the water, not only just human. So a sustainable local and ecologically and social and culturally appropriate governance, when we talk about that, these are key dimensions of sovereignty for Indigenous people, and it balances their requirement to food, health, and energy. It talks about the environmental sustainability through a sense of agency. And then we spoke about, we discussed also community first and land-centered framework. This is a framework that is founded on respect and reciprocity and ethical and non-abusive relationship. It talks about the wampum theory, a treaty idea that's been practiced in Indigenous communities since time immemorial, that talk about the balance of relationship. And this takes us to the next understanding, which is the theory of change. And we have taken this concept from Northern Manitoba Food, Culture and Community Collaborative, and it is also like the land-centered, community-led framework, and it talks about reciprocity, shared learning, collaboration, going with the pace of the community, being committed to community, and being relational. This concept embraces a circular worldview, and it is important because it aims to show the continuous growth and shared learning and relationship. So we adopted all these concepts and we decided to work with the community. And this was the timeline for, so from February 2018 till December 2020. I'm not going to go through the timeline very briefly to let you know that this was kind of a very quick and fast 2 years that we spent with these two beautiful communities to achieve what we have. So after our field trips and interaction and interviews that we did with the community, we realized there are some commonalities between OPCN and OCN well-being focus, and both of them wanted to strengthen the intergenerational relationship by passing on their knowledge and stories, because they saw that their eco-cultural relationship is disturbed. So if we do not try to reestablish that, the well-being framework will not be regained. So they both wanted the sharing of the past stories of eco-cultural relationship. They both wanted the producing of educational resources for the community, both adults and youth. So with this end in view, we decided to produce some educational calendars for both communities, beautiful calendars there. And we also produced some posters. For OPCN, Opipanapin Cree Nation, we also produced 6 videos that are available online for people to view. So with that, can you all hear me? Hello? Yes, okay, Débora is nodding. All right, so with that, I end my presentation. Time to Omer and Crystal. And so here, I'm gonna share my screen again so they can start talking about calendar project. Omer and Crystal has been immensely helpful. They are Opaskwayak Cree Nation land-based educators and food champions. That's how I want to see them. Amazing speakers and storytellers. And they were the key knowledge-sharing people for us for the production of the calendars. So
Can you hear us?
you're joining us. I'll introduce
You want us to start? Oh, she's frozen in time.
Débora, can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Débora?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right.
All right, go ahead. I'm gonna start talking.
Okay.
Go for it. Introduce yourself.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Crystal Constant from Opaskwayak Cree Nation. I'm an educator here in our community. I'm a teacher. Right now, I'm a career guidance counselor for our school, grades 9, well, actually grades 7 to 12. And Omar and I work actively with the school in terms of our land base, whether we're assisting a teacher out, taking a classroom out. But also we have our own programming. I have a different program for the students within the school. It's a hiking, biking, canoe club. So that's my way I contribute with my students in the school. But also we're very active as a family in terms of going out, hunting, gathering the food, but also sharing it with our community members so that our traditional food is shared and provided for our people that don't have the resources, the equipment to get out there. So when we started working on this calendar, it was a great opportunity. We learned a lot from talking with Asfia and as we were going through the project here. So it was nice to see the collaboration between our community members with the elders, everyone that had contributed to the photos. And what was really nice was they had integrated our Cree language for the 12 months. And, we went as far as providing the pronunciation in the calendar. So I think Asfia wanted to share a couple of the pages there. Asfia, yeah.
I'm sharing if people can see it.
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. That's January.
Yeah, so with each calendar picture, there's different pictures put together. The pronunciation is at the bottom there, and it shows the microns of our dialect here in the Swampy Cree. We have the N dialect. Other communities north of us, south of us have the different dialects. So we really educate our youth in that, and we have also our own local resource we developed with our local school services, Opaskwayak Education Services. So this was a project done with our elders, with our teachers, our Cree language instructors, and every member in our community was provided with this source here, this resource. So that is still continued to be used today in our school for our Cree language program we have, and there's 4 levels for the high school, but also we have the Cree language from kindergarten right up to grade 8. Moving back to the calendar, you want to flip the screen there?
March, talking about March.
There's April. So we just
You want to
finished
go
with
talk about
April there.
March?
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
March.
Okay. So March is the trapping season in our territory. This year we didn't see too many numbers of muskrats in our territory. And in fact, we had to go out to another local community, which was in Cormorant, and we had some local gatherers getting the traditional food for our elders. So that was nice to see. I also noted on the side there the eagle moon. So Mikasawepi Sim. Each moon, each month ends with the word Pisim. So it covers it explains the 13 moons we call it, but there's 12 in this calendar. April. Okay, so with the April, this is the Niska. We call it Niska Pisim, the goose moon. So we were very active last month as a group and as a family. Again, Omar taking his group out, our family, gathering the different geese, not just the big Canadians. What are the other types of geese that you?
Yeah, we usually focus at the big cannons that come in the 1st of April. We hunt those ones for probably the first two weeks. And after that, we would focus on the ducks. And then after we do our ducks for about 2 weeks, and then we'll move off to the little lesser, the white-front geese. Now, the white-front geese they call them laughers. That's what the old-timers used to call them, the elders. Why? Because they laugh at you. That's what they call them, like a laugher. They go like a, ha, ha, ha. They kind of do that kind of thing. But the way a laugher would taste to, how I describe a laugher is that for those that like lobster, you have that delicate taste. That's the way the laughers taste to our elders. They're like a lobster to it, but just in bird version of that. And they used to get them back here late in the early 80s. There used to be thousands of them, but over the years, the migration route changed, so they're more towards Saskatchewan. And that's what we notice with our wetlands now is that a lot of our birds that usually stop, they're changing their flight route or they're moving further. They're making their stops further south and then going straight through to the north. They're bypassing OCM. So we see a lot of change in the weather. We see a lot of change in the bird patterns. We see a lot of fluctuation with our waters, the food source and that. But that's April is usually our month that we usually start heading out for the birds, March and April. All right, we'll go to the next moon.
Okay.
Next moon is
We have May.
May. There you go.
Okay, so again, our local elders, our school programs, take the kids out to the land. As soon as the snow is gone, we have new fresh vegetation coming up, and then the students are taken out starting in the beginning, well, actually around the middle of May, towards the end of May. We started looking for rat root, weakest, and the elders will explain to the students how it's gathered. So everything is active, and the students have that hands-on learning. So this is the frog moon, and like with our area right now, every night you hear the frogs just singing away. Anikise is how you say it, the frog.
And after we're done this presentation, I'm off with the group to go look for some mud hen eggs. That's another delicacy that our elders crave for. So at 5:30, I'll be heading out. So we're talking month of June now.
Okay, so June. So fishing is what takes up a lot of time in our families and the people with their activities in our community. So they're gathering fish. You can see the smoked fish in the photo here. Some people will can it. I know we do our canning in late fall for the white fish, but usually around June we're gathering as well our sturgeon or pickerel from the lakes or from the river. Anything else you want to add there?
No.
No. July. Okay.
Here's your blueberries.
Okay, going into July, we go berry picking. So again, it's taking people out, family members. The bigger families come together, storing up for the winter. You see the different varieties there: the blueberries, choke cherries, strawberries. Here we have Monica. She's one of our locals here. So again, using the berries not only for the different types of foods, but also it's great for medicinal purposes, along with the leaves and that. We got August.
September.
Yeah.
Oh, August. Yeah.
Again, 2 months into August, when it starts getting a little colder. The high bush cranberries that you see on the top left of your screen is what we pick in our area here. But also on the right, we have the Saskatoon berries. Those a lot of people are starting to jam, making jams to store up for the winter.
But also when you're looking for berry, you're not only looking for berry, you're also looking for signs of moose, because the next month after that is moose season.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. You're going picking berries, you look for signs and all that.
In the month of July, is that the month?
That's August.
I mean
August.
Yeah. When are they starting to molt, the birds, the ducks?
No,
We're here?
in June.
We're here?
In June.
Oh, in June,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, next one, your September moon.
Nothing there.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So in the month of September, I love this month. It's not only my my moose hunting season, but it's also my birthday, my anniversary. But in the moose season there, it's usually late in the fall. Late fall, that's when we start going out and looking for the bull moose and calling. And the biggest thing is people ask you, how do you call? You have to listen to the animals and listen to how they react to your calls and that. I have about a 5-minute story, but I don't want to share that with you because you might ask for an encore. No, just kidding. But basically, the month of September is the time to go and call the moose, the mighty bull moose.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And with our moose harvesting, it's important to note that not every family goes out to harvest one. So there is some conservation happening. I know with our family, we go out and call. We don't just keep looking and looking, driving, whether we're in a vehicle or a boat. We make and plan those trips. And then if we come across our moose and we take one, that is one we take, and then we store that meat right up, to the winter month.
Even for the month of for September, that we do our early hunting. If we can get them, fine. But usually, if you do come across a moose that you have knocked down, and if the trophy is not known by the antler, it's known by the amount of fat that's on the animal. So that's what's considered a trophy to us, because you can utilize that fat, that animal fat, in many different ways. So if we don't get a moose by September, then probably the second week of August, it's October, we would leave them alone. Because they're getting into the rut and they're kind of doing their wallows and that. So we usually try and get them before at the end of September on that part of it. And if not, then we'll leave them alone and then pick them up in December and January. But there's a lot of ethics that go behind moose hunting, because to us, a moose is kind of like the top of the food chain. It's very sanctuary. So we're very, we do our respect for the animal. When we harvest it, we kill it. And when we take it off, the meat off the bones, we'll take the bones that we don't use, take it to the bush, do a prayer and offer tobacco. So every culture is different, but it's just something that we've been doing ever since we started hunting. All right, so we'll go into the month of October. We're flipping months. For those of you that are just on, my introduction was I've been hunting ever since I was able to walk. I killed my first duck when I was 5 years old and my first moose when I was 7. And ever since that time, I've always been on the land. So the month of October, this is another beautiful season for us hunters. It not only brings everybody together, but it appreciates the change of the scenery out there. So the leaves changing, winter is coming up, and we try and anticipate trying to get as many birds as we can. Let's say if you get let's say you got 3 guys, you come in with 100 birds. We do all the birds by pluck, singe, duck, bag. And then from there, they take their share and divide it up. And then from there, it's your share with their families. And then we would keep some, and then some families would come around and ask for ducks for the wakes or for funerals or for weddings, and we share that. So they may seem like we take lots, but in the end, we're sharing a lot with a lot of people, not only with our caramels and that. Hey, Crystal.
Right. So we have the canning there, shown there, and then on the right side is the smoking. So Omer did a great job there with our load. That was about a couple of years back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a picture of one of our guys there in the shed there showing a mallard that had his feathers, removed them. So when you see that, then what we would do is we would singe it over diamond willow, just to singe all the feather, give kind of like a nice brown color. Again, every community is different in how they do their food prep. There's not really a right or wrong way, it's just how you're brought up. Around Opaskwayak, we like to use diamond willow.
Part of the note made in the calendar there was each time we go out to the land, we're paying attention to, what we see on the land, whether it's the water levels, the condition that the moose is in terms of what we see with the foliage, with the trees, how much area is being eaten. So again, being stewards of the land is our role, I guess, out here, and it's very enjoyable. November. So getting into the colder seasons, people are stocking up with their wood, for their camps, and some homes that still have the wood stove. We have the community members go to their camp, they help prepare it, making sure that it's stocked up for the winter. And then again, it gets into more the quieter season for November and December.
But even with November nowadays from back then, you're able to have skidoo travel movement a lot earlier on. But due to the weather and everything else, so it kind of delays November. So probably late November, December is when you're actually starting to haul wood because of the water levels that if they're not frozen or whatnot. So all the weather has a big factor to do with it around here now. And it changed lots over the years. So we're done to November and we're going into a whole season.
December. So a lot of the local trappers will have their camps, and then that's where they will go spend time. Some will stay there weeks on end with family members, taking their material, their food supplies down. Then they bring in the furs. The price of fur nowadays is not as great, but we do have the local people that do send it out, get it fixed so that they could use it for other resources for making mix and that for clothing. So, anything you want to know?
So back in 1985, there when we were about 15 years old, when me and Crystal first started dating there, we have a Saskatchewan. It's about 8 kilometers from where we live. And that used to be shared by about 13, 14 different trappers. And each year they would estimate they had about 19,000 rat houses that 1 year. And the next year they had 16,000. Next year they had 9,000. The next year they had 3,000. And the following year after that, down to nothing. So that just to show you how the water level, the animals, and how we have to adapt or change our way of life in that. You go to that lake now where we go to, it's almost like a dead piece of land there. Where it used to be the mighty flagweed used to be flapping there. Now it's barely, you can see right through it. And that's due to high water, poor management over the years.
Yeah. And also in terms of them keeping their contracts with what they have written with our local NRC, Natural Resource Committee Council, they don't really go out and maintain the land as they say they would. I know you were dealing with land removal for the bulrushes area.
Because I know with Ducks Unlimited, when I used to sit on the council, we used to advocate for our OCN members, but what their process was, they used to use a lot of Western science, and they have their knowledge, and they have their leaders out in the United States there, and they would network with the engineers. We've always told them, I said, use our traditional knowledge with the ores and combine them both together. I'm sure we can come up with a solution, but a lot of their structures to this day and age, since they were around Ocean and Saskatchewan, they probably put 104 structures. Now they want to get out of there. But again, if we were to go and absorb it, then a big cost that comes with those structures and that. So in the future, always use your traditional knowledge with the locals because they know the waterways, they know the land, and vice versa on that part of it. So that would be my advice to you if you ever have that opportunity to voice your concern, is that always use your traditional knowledge because they've been around for a long, very long time.
I will be happy to answer your question if you need to, or connect you with Omar, Crystal, or Débora. The calendars, okay, somebody asked, are the calendars still available? Yes, they are. So yeah, connect with us if you would like a copy. We'll be happy to share it with you. I would like to thank all the presenters, Débora, and thank you, Omar and Crystal, for going through the hurdle of technical difficulties and joining us today. I would like to thank our conference organizers for being patient with us. And thank you all for joining us. It was an amazing session for me, and I look forward to the future sessions with you. I have a session tomorrow, if you'd like to join us at 3:15. All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you, Asfia. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah!